Let's continue with A Journey to the West. His Holiness gave a public lecture at the Rocky Mountain Center. In this public lecture, he mainly spoke about the noble qualities of the three jewels. Having finished explaining the Buddha, he now begins to explain the noble qualities of the Dharma. The noble qualities of the Dharma are as follows. Now, concerning the Dharma, Buddhism believes in the existence of past and future lives. If you take a foal or a baby calf as an example, the baby animal has an instinct to suck its mother's milk as soon as it is born. It always follows after its mother intuitively and loves its mother. It has the instinct to hide from its natural enemies or predators. All these behaviors are caused by the karma and habitual tendencies from previous lives. Some of you may not be aware of this, but it's really true. When a baby calf or foal is just born, the mother might lick off some of the impurities from its body. After that, it slowly stands up, and as soon as it does, it goes straight to suck the mother's milk. It doesn't go anywhere else, as if it's completely familiar with what to do. On the other hand, for us humans, we're much slower. We have to be fed, otherwise we wouldn't know how to do it ourselves. Sometimes as infants, we humans are even less capable than animals, but indeed these animals do have these tendencies from previous lives. Nowadays some people say this is some kind of special ability or instinct. But if we analyze this so-called special ability through reasoning, the baby animal has never seen what its parents look like. Having just arrived in this world, how does it know where to find milk? If you've observed this, I used to love watching this and was always puzzled by it. Why does it just know? Nobody taught it. Yet as soon as it stands up, it immediately goes and sucks the mother's milk, as if completely familiar with it. This is really quite remarkable. This example is cited in many scriptures. The Buddha mentioned it in the Vinaya Sutra, and it also appears in various treatises. The reasoning behind it is explained quite extensively. We've also analyzed this before. Without habitual tendencies from before, it is unexplainable why the baby animal behaves like this right after birth. This alone proves the existence of past and future lives. Now, each of us experiences different happiness and suffering. This is also the ripening effect of karma created in previous lives. This is not determined by a certain individual. If happiness and suffering were not caused by karma, but were bestowed by someone else, you cannot find any valid reasoning to support such an assertion. Some people are naturally inclined toward happiness. Whatever circumstances they encounter become a source of joy for them. But if someone is naturally inclined towards suffering, they find something to suffer about today and something else to suffer about tomorrow. It's true that some practitioners who have cultivated well may be different, but that's not necessarily always the case. When afflictions arise, they just arise. A few short years of study and practice may not be enough to resolve them. I still feel deeply, whether looking at myself or others, that the Dharma is truly great. However, our habitual tendencies remain very strong, so if you haven't reached a certain level of realization in practice, merely studying and reflecting may not be enough to solve the problem. When you're analyzing, it seems like there's no problem, but then you can clearly see it happening. When you can perceive the nature of samsara, various sufferings just come on their own, and when they come, the Dharma you've practiced may seem to have no effect at all. This is actually quite normal. Now, moving on, some people say that past and future lives do not exist, while others say they definitely do exist. However, as long as you engage in long-term analysis by referring to Buddhist scriptures, you will develop genuine certainty about the existence of past and future lives. I remember back on November 10th, 2011, if it had been just one day later, it would have been 6 ones, November 11th, 2011. At Northwest University, I gave a lecture called Future Lives and Rebirth in the Pure Land. That's the Northwest University in Xi'an. At that time, the topics they proposed were past and future lives, and rebirth in the Pure Land of Sukhavati. About rebirth in the Pure Land, I only remember covering a little bit at the end. For the topic of past and future lives, I felt at the time that I had cited quite a lot of scientific evidence available at the time, including the research of Dr. Stevenson and Dr. Tucker. I shared quite a bit of this with the scholars there at the time. Perhaps some of you who used to have strong conceptual doubts, now that we have these resources. You can read them as ebooks, so from time to time it's really necessary to look at these materials. I don't think I presented it all that well, but I did prepare quite thoroughly. At the very least, I basically understood what Buddhism has to say on this and what modern perspectives are. It wasn't purely a Buddhist viewpoint, nor was it purely a modern scientific one. When you combine the two, it should make sense. The existence of past and future lives is very important. If we don't even believe in past and future lives, then becoming a monastic is pointless, and studying Buddhism is pointless. This is extremely important. Every one of you must understand this. We've also taught the case for past and future lives before. That text explains it very well. I translated it specifically for this purpose, so please do take a look at these materials. Otherwise, their habitual tendencies are probably similar to ours. Let's consider, is it better to seek happiness with the belief in the existence of past and future lives, or is it better to do so while denying their existence? If we strive for the welfare of this and future lives with the belief in past and future lives, even if future lives turn out to be non-existent, we would not suffer a big loss, because this life is very short, as we will analyze below. The risk isn't that great. However, if you only think about this life while believing future lives don't exist, then when we are about to die, if future lives turn out to exist, it will be too late to regret. You would have greatly deceived yourself. That loss would be much greater. His Holiness often mentions this point, and we also often reflect on it. It's true. Most people today don't even think about this at all. This is a huge oversight for humanity. It seems like humans can go to the moon, and every day we develop all kinds of weapons for warfare. We're so capable. But in reality, we don't even think about whether our own past and future lives exist. This is truly regrettable. So when His Holiness spoke that day, there was a lot to share. The photos from that time aren't very clear, but during the public lecture there were indeed a lot of people. You should know that any type of suffering experienced in the hell realm is unendurable, and the lifespan is extremely long. Therefore, please consider carefully if you were to fall into the hell realm. It's not just a matter of a few hundred years. It's truly terrifying. For genuine Buddhist followers regarding the existence of past and future lives, there are many reliable teachings and logical inferences. It is unnecessary to prove this further, since they have already developed a steadfast conviction. Even if gods from the celestial realm came to say that past and future lives don't exist, their certainty will not waver. Of course, among Buddhists, those who have studied well have this kind of understanding. They've had this concept since childhood. Otherwise, as we've seen before, some who graduated from universities or even Buddhist institutes never even think about past and future lives. Even now, there are people online making things up and talking nonsense. They may have been ordained before, but they don't believe in past and future lives at all. You can tell from some of their behaviors. Everyone should be aware of this. However, for those who are not serious Buddhists, they may not really trust Buddhist theories. They may be suspicious, do past and future lives really exist? Even if there is no evidence to prove the non-existence of future lives, many people still hold this doubt with an inconsistent mindset. Indeed, since ancient times, throughout history, there has never been any evidence proving that past and future lives do not exist. However, there is abundant evidence that they do exist. When I taught the case for past and future lives before, I emphasized this point strongly. We humans should ultimately remember this. Evidence that past and future lives do not exist has not been found to this day, but evidence that they do exist, whether from science, religion, or other fields, is abundant, including many people who can fully remember their past lives. There are so many such cases. It is safest to do everything in life with the recognition that the afterlife exists. As a Tibetan proverb goes, even if one stirrup snaps, the other still works. His Holiness often uses this analogy. Sometimes he applies it to the practice of ultimate truth and conventional truth. If your meditation on emptiness doesn't succeed, the conventional practice of mantra recitation can still bring success. So this Tibetan proverb means if you act on the basis that past and future lives exist, even if you don't do it perfectly, you still have some protection. If you choose what to adopt and what to abandon, With the consideration of the existence of future lives, you can hardly go wrong. Disregarding future lives can only cause you to delude yourself and others. As a result, you will inevitably suffer the miserable consequences. That said, it is best to acknowledge the existence of future lives and make sound preparations for them. While admitting the existence of future lives, does Buddhism attach greater importance to this life or to the lives after this one? Future lives are valued more. Why is that? No matter how overwhelming the happiness you may obtain in this life, it is temporary. No matter how tremendous your achievement may be, it will not last forever. Human life is really very short. No matter what you have, I sometimes think about this too. Whether it's fame, wealth, or anything else, it's all so brief in this human world. Even if you were ambitious to become the wealthiest person or the leader of the entire world, however vast your merit may be, you cannot possibly achieve this goal without painstaking efforts over 1 or 2 decades. And even after that, you may only enjoy its privilege for about 20 years, so the happiness it brings to you is still short-lived. It doesn't really mean that much. Just as happiness is not long-lasting, so is the suffering you undergo in this life. All of you present here are mostly past your 20s or 30s, so from now on, not many of you are able to live for another 50 or 60 years. So no matter how long your life may be, you don't have another 50 or 60 years left. Given that both happiness and suffering are temporary in this life, pursuing happiness and eliminating suffering only for this present life should not be the primary goal. His Holiness's Vajra words are something many of us should reflect on more often. Comparatively speaking, happiness and suffering in future lives are endless and countless. Take suffering, for example. If you were to be born into the hell realm, you would find your body lying on the burning metal ground, being impaled by arrows and spears, being cut up by saws. No sooner has your upper body been cut through, your lower body becomes restored. No sooner has your lower body been hacked up, your upper body becomes restored. You would relentlessly experience suffering for hundreds of thousands of years before there is an end to it. Among the hell realms, the reviving hell and the black thread. Hell are considered the mildest. Everyone should understand this. Now, concerning happiness, if you are reborn in the pure land of Sukhavati, the most inconceivable happiness experienced in this human world throughout hundreds of thousands of years cannot compare to a single day in Sukhavati. The bliss and happiness of Sukhavati are incomparable to any happiness in this world. So whether we consider happiness or suffering, why should we Buddhists value future lives? His Holiness explains the reasons here very clearly. So how would I describe the situation if you disregard future lives and just focus on this life? It is like making a choice between working to assure yourself of food and clothing for one day compared to your entire life. I'm sure all of us feel it is silly if someone chooses the former. One day is short. Whether you enjoy happiness or undergo suffering, that which is experienced in one day is short, but in one lifetime is long. So you should try your best to pursue a lifetime of happiness. That's how people think. Similarly, this life is temporary, and all future lives are long and endless. If you fail to seek happiness for all your future lives, then you are the most unwise among all the unwise. How do we Tibetans describe such people? A Tibetan saying describes these kinds of people as big, dumb yaks with upper teeth. Didn't Sakya Pandita say this? If you don't seek wisdom, don't make proper choices, and just eat, drink, and be merry every day, you're like this, because yaks don't have upper teeth, and you, as a person, are basically no different from a yak, except that you have upper teeth. You don't think about future lives at all. Conversely, if you work for the happiness of all future lives, extraordinary benefits for this present life will spontaneously come to you. You will naturally enjoy prolonged life and good health, abundant possessions, stately appearance, and many other privileges. Just like when you burn firewood, charcoal is naturally produced. If you truly practice well, fame and wealth will come to you naturally. For every one of you present here, if you do not consider your future lives as you get older, you will suffer more and more. Your bodies will become increasingly weaker. When you think about leaving this world, a tremendous sense of sadness will fill your hearts. However, if you have accumulated great amounts of merit for your future lives, the closer you approach death, the happier and more joyful you will become. A while ago, a monk from the monastery in my hometown became ordained before me in 1984. Recently, he was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. This summer, I spent some time with him. I said, "Don't be too worried. Our bodies won't last forever." He replied, "Oh, it's nothing. I'm still full of energy right now." But then, 3 months later, when he was examined again, the cancer had already spread. But when he learned this, he was overjoyed. This is wonderful. The Dharma I've practiced diligently can now be put to use at death. He then remained in meditative states. Recently, the cremation has already been completed. When he died, he had no suffering at all. He was very happy and faced death with complete ease. When we face death or grow old, having this kind of realization in practice is truly something to admire. At the time of his death, many auspicious signs appeared. It was remarkable. He was actually quite an ordinary person. He had also spent time at the academy. I think he probably came around the same time as me, or shortly after. His whole life was devoted to meditation and practice. He became somewhat well known in recent years. But once someone becomes famous, they're about to leave this world. So I really admire these genuine practitioners. For those who truly practice, when afflictions arise, they can handle them. When facing the suffering of death, they're completely at ease. Ah, dying is wonderful. When he heard that day that there was nothing more to be done in the hospital, the cancer had completely spread, and there was no way to treat it, he was especially delighted. He insisted on singing a Vajra song and dancing a Vajra dance. After returning home, he continued like that. Indeed, some people face death very differently from ordinary people. Even an ordinary person, if their practice has been successful, it becomes clearly visible at the time of death. As the text says here, the closer they approach death, the happier they become. Just like those great masters who have dedicated their entire lives to Dharma practice, it is described by the Buddha in the Vinaya Sutra, the exhaustion of longevity brings about great joy, like being recovered from sickness. The closer their lives come to an end, like a patient who will soon be fully recovered from his sickness, the more inconceivable their ease and happiness become. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Bandara Badma Sadar